Hi, it's Mira here. Welcome to another 2-minute teaching tip. Today I'd like to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of using the flipped classroom approach in our lesson and course planning. In a typical traditional classroom setting, whether it's face-to-face or online, we deliver the bulk of our course content to a cohort of learners within class time, and we set additional homework to be completed outside of class time. And that homework helps us to consolidate the learning for our students. In the flipped classroom method, on the other hand, we do the opposite. We front-load students with content by asking them to cover the content that they need as homework before they come to the next class. When the students come to their next class, we design an activity based on that pre-work that consolidates their learning, and the idea is that the teacher is not delivering the content during the lesson, but instead is using class time for more personalised learning and practical activities. And that also encourages our students to take responsibility for their own learning. The flipped classroom approach works best for groups of students with very high levels of personal commitment and motivation towards their course. For these motivated students, this approach works really well because we can rely on students doing their pre-work in their own time so that we can focus on designing engaging activities to help them consolidate their learning. So we can see that there are some advantages to the flipped classroom, but what about the disadvantages? Unfortunately, the flipped classroom approach doesn't work well for students who don't have a high level of motivation towards their studies. And that's because as teachers, we're relying on our students to complete their pre-work. If they don't do it, we're left having to teach that content during the next class so that those students don't fall behind. So we may have to quickly rethink our lesson plan and maybe even give up on the class activity that we'd planned for. If this happens week after week, we'll very quickly fall behind on our delivery schedule, and this puts us under pressure to complete our delivery within our scheduled time frame. Another disadvantage is that other students who've completed the pre-work may need to wait for others to catch up. And we know from our customer voice surveys that this can be extremely frustrating for our highly motivated students. If you're planning to use a flipped classroom approach, I'd like to leave you with 3 things to consider. Firstly, understand your students' commitment and motivations to your course. Secondly, be prepared that some students may not engage with their homework, and this then may disrupt your plans for certain activities. And lastly, plan out your course schedule to accommodate some flipped classroom activities, but mix it up with more traditional lessons. That'll help you stay in control of your delivery timeframe if things don't go quite to plan. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.